Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Andrew. I'm a photographer. I've been a photographer for the best part of 40 years. Started out with film way back in the day, moved through digital, but over the last couple of years I've started moving back and getting an interest back in film photography. And I thought, as I've collected a reasonable number of quite interesting cameras, I might start a little series on those cameras, my thoughts on them, and just an overview of some of those cameras. And it seemed like the logical place to start was the one that I've been using for the last month or so, which is the Kodak RetNet 1B. It's a 35mm camera made by Kodak AG in Germany from, I believe, 1959 through to I think around 1966. This is the 1B model. It is quite similar to the 1A model, which I also have a copy of here. The difference being that the 1B has a selenium light meter and a hot shoe versus no light meter and a cold shoe mount. So other than that, they're quite similar. They're very basic cameras. There's no rangefinder. All focusing is zone or take a guesstimate at it. They sold new for between $30 and $50, which is around $350 to $500 in current money. So it put them in the market in that sort of mid-range, the sort of camera that an enthusiastic amateur might buy who wanted something more than like the box brownies and the Instamatic type cameras that were common at the time. It's a beautifully made camera. It's known for having a really nice lens, the Rodenstock 2.8 f2.8 lens, 45mm. It's a beautiful carry around little lens, very sharp from what I've heard and everything I've read. So it is a very nice camera. The light meter is actually a Gossen branded. You can actually see it. If you look very closely, you can actually see imprinted in there. It is a Gossen meter. And the lens is Rodenstock. So from a specification point of view, it is quite a nice camera. This particular one is the later 045 version. You can tell that in the writing on the top of the camera, it's in a very square font. The earlier ones had a font similar to the 1A here, which is a very scripty type font. There's a couple of features about this camera that make it quite unusual. It's not very common. One of those is the fact that the advance lever is on the bottom of the camera. So you actually advance by winding forward. It's a little hard to sort of show. So instead of this sort of action, you have this sort of action, or you wind it through that way. The other thing is the film counter actually counts down. So when you put film into the camera, you set the number of frames that you have on the camera, and from that point on, it counts down until you reach the end. So there's a couple of unusual features. So I managed to pick up this 1B on eBay, which is a pretty common place that I pick up cameras. I managed to pick up a 1B and another 1A. This 1A actually is my original and working one, but it has some issues with the viewfinder. The copy of the 1A that I was able to get with this is not working, but has the viewfinder part, so I'm planning to cannibalize the non-working one and make a working 1A. And at some point in time, I'll do a video with that one as well. So when the camera arrived, it appears to be in very good condition, like the leatherette, and there's very little markings on it, considering this camera is probably 60 years old, at least 60 years old. And who knows when it was actually last used, where it's been, what it's done. So I basically did some basic checks, shutter works, it advances. I've got no idea of the accuracy of the light meter, but that appeared to be working. It certainly was responding to light and working in that way. I'm not someone who feels that they have to have a perfect camera, so I basically just chucked a roll of film in it and I'm going to see what it turns out like. I know a lot of people, they like to tidy these things up and make sure they're absolutely perfect and the shutters work perfectly and everything is spot on and there's no light leaks and there's none of that sort of thing. I'm actually quite happy as long as there's nothing serious, as long as I can get nice images out of it or images that I'm happy with. I don't really mind if there are some character features with the camera. I mean, this camera's 60 years old, at least 60 years old, maybe a little bit longer. It's somewhere between 1963 and 1966 based on the model version. So I kind of always look at this and think, when I get these cameras, who bought these? Where did this camera come from? Who bought it? Who went into a shop when this was brand new and saw it on the shelf and decided that's what they wanted? And why did they buy it? What was their story? Was it so they could do landscapes or street photography? Or was it just for family photos? Was it, and where's this camera been? Was this someone's pride and joy? I mean, the condition of this camera is quite immaculate. So I can imagine that this was somebody's pride and joy. They've used it. It's probably sat in a box in a cupboard somewhere for the last, who knows, 40 years, 20, 30, 40 years, and not seen the light of day maybe even. But it's got a story. This camera has a story, and when I go out and take photos, I now become part of that story. And I really don't mind, as long as the images are usable. I think there's a lot to be said for having character in a camera. So I guess the thing now, we've put a roll of film through this, so we might just push the button and start rolling that film back in here. There's a button just under the film advance, and we just turn this knob here on the back up here, and we'll just roll that film back in. And we'll send it away, because at this point in time I'm not processing my own film. We'll send it away to a lab and see what we come up with. Okay, we've got that. Pull that up. There's a little button there, just like that. I'll just open that up. Roll of Ilford Delta 400, put that away, and we'll get that processed. We'll have a look at some images, and we'll come back with my final thoughts on the Kodak RetNet 1B. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on the RetNet 1B? Having now seen the images that I've been able to get from it, I'm pretty impressed. It's a nice little camera. Would I recommend it to somebody just starting out or looking to get into film camera? They're quite readily available, and you can get them for under $100 fairly easily on eBay. They are reasonably simple to operate. I mean, the light meter is quite handy, but you do have to remember it's a reflective light meter. It is metering from here, it's not metering through the lens. I know a couple of times with the images that I took, I had to use some experience to actually look at it and go, I need to adjust that a little bit, that's probably not right. But on the whole, it's pretty much point and shoot, and the focusing is not hard. You tend to use fairly smaller apertures, f8 or higher, so depth of field isn't a problem. There is, as I say, no focusing. It's not a rangefinder, so you have to zone focus or just pretty much guess how far it is. But overall, it's a really nice little camera, and there are plenty available and in good condition. The number one problem I've personally seen with them is failed shutters. I've seen a couple. I've got the parts one that I've got, the shutters failed on it. I have seen a couple of others where the same problem. I don't know, maybe they could be pulled apart, maybe it's just the old oil on them has got sticky and gummed them up, I don't know. But this one works beautifully, and I have another 1A which eventually I'll do a video on once I fix the viewfinder issue, which I believe the shutter's working fine on that one. So yeah, a nice little option. So that's the Kodak RetNet 1B. If you are interested, I'm going to be making a whole series of these videos. I've got some very interesting cameras that I, until recently, had no idea even existed. Some are going to be fairly familiar, some slightly newer ones, but most of them are going to be in the 1950s and 1960s, 35mm 120 film as well. So if you're interested, subscribe and follow, and we'll have some fun. Bye for now.